Hello. Really sorry about that. Everything just completely crashed. so, I hope that everyone has been able to find me again. And I think that there is a massive lag. So sorry about the technical problems that we're having today. I hope that I can back up again. I hope that I do, because at the moment all you guys can see is the actual initial picture. Let me just see and refresh my page and see if I come back. So wow, we definitely don't need this today, do we? Definitely isn't the day for Gremlins. So let me just go back onto the live show and see if we're up again. I can actually see myself now. That's a good start. That's a very good start. Okay guys, so do let me know if you are clicking along today. Okay, you can see me. It's just that I couldn't see me, if you know what I mean. Okay, right. So thank you for all coming back. So we've got Paul here, Justine, Doug, Tanya, who else? Colleen. So glad you're back. It gave me a chance to measure up my ingredients. Well, that was my plan all along. See, we fooled everyone, Colleen. Jessie says that you can see me, which is good. Gloria says hello. I can see and hear you. That's good. Paul said, okay, now, last time your video froze for a while, but near the end it seemed to unfreeze itself, like my raspberries. But then you walked away. Tanya says, all good. Card is here. He says, hello, Chef Day. Cooking along in Ramadan again. New hair, same old enthusiasm. Missed everyone here. We miss you too. And I believe that aren't you involved in some sort of podcast? Did I see something about that on Facebook? So please do let us all know about that. That sounds amazing. George is here. If you can, just tell me if the actual picture quality is good, because I've been working hard on figuring out a way to make the picture quality as good as it can be, because I know that some of you have tiny weeny phones, and so if you're watching on that, the picture quality is really important. So I hope that it's working for everybody. Christine says, hello, I was late arriving, but it seemed to not matter. Again, that was our plan all along, you see? Not Gremlins at all. Oh, Elizabeth is here from Bolton. Okay, hello. Oh, Paul has confirmed that Khan is doing a podcast. And he says, yes, I am. A podcast with a few good friends. Would love to host you. Ah, yeah, we can definitely do that. Jeff is here. He says, hello, everyone. He is just in the other room with a few broken ribs, which is a bit rubbish, but he is on the mend, and I'm making sure to feed him lots of cookies, because initially, just after the crash, he lost his love of cookies, which was like pretty devastating. But it's coming back, so don't worry. Okay, Doug has guessed for Underneath the Rainbow, so there is a rainbow, of course, somewhere here today, and you have to guess what is underneath the rainbow and why it's relevant. So do let me know what you think is underneath the rainbow. Doug has guessed singing under the rainbow. That's very vague. We need something a little bit more specific. Jess said vegan broken ribs recipe to follow. Oh, and everyone is saying I hope you feel better soon. Yeah, he's on the mend. We're both on the mend, so thank you very much. Okay, right, so today we are making Jammie Dodgers. I think Jammie Dodgers is quite a British biscuit. I mean, we call it a biscuit rather than a cookie. And so basically it's like two biscuits, one with a little hole in the top, with jam in the middle. Very lovely, very lovely. And over the last, was it about 6 months ago, Jammie Dodgers are now vegan, but of course they're not gluten free. So I wanted to make them gluten free. So that is what we are making today. Colleen has asked about the fine brown sugar. Okay, so I specify fine brown sugar because the sugar isn't going to have a huge amount of time to melt in this recipe, because we only put them in the oven for around 10 minutes or something like that. So if you have some type of sugar that is bigger grains, then they're going to be a bit crunchy. It's also going to hamper you being able to roll them out well. So that's why I specify fine brown sugar. Now you could use fine white sugar if you want to, completely up to you. I just prefer using brown sugar. Doug, Doug guessed that underneath the rainbow is birds singing. Yes, yes, and he got it first. He got it. See, I was talking to Colleen and just distracting her whilst Doug got in there quickly with his guess, and you got it right. So it's birds singing under the rainbow. I don't know if you can see it there actually. I bet you can't. His little eye is a heart because not only do we have a lot of birds singing in the garden at the moment because it's spring, but we've got a lot of birds out there looking for love. So there's a lot of mating calls going on in our garden. I know Louise, who often comes to the show, one of my friends, she is having a lot of pigeons having relationships in her garden. So So it's that time of year. It's that time of year. So, but just to celebrate all of the bird song that is out there because it is absolutely beautiful. Like it's literally like a cacophony, which is really, really, really lovely to hear. Okay, I've actually made myself go red by saying that. So. Okay, we're going to take things nice and easy today. Because that's kind of all I can manage. So guys, do let me know if you are cooking along at home. Oh, Annie is here. Annie says, sorry, I'm so late. Something came up and I had to go out. Annie, literally, we've just got started. Had major gremlins today. So don't worry at all. Paul says, I'm baking along, but immediately after this Facebook Live, as I might miss something if I bake along at the same time. Oh, yes, we are running a bit late. And, oh, Justine says, I think Colleen got it earlier, which is very, very interesting because in my timeline, I can see all the comments on, Doug was first. Or you guys have to duke it out. So, but Justine says we can call it joint winning. Okay. Colleen said, so can I use light brown sugar or will that mess up the texture? Yeah, light brown sugar, fine brown sugar, as long as it isn't that like really like big crunchy stuff that you usually like put in coffee. You know, it needs to be a bit fine. You could also use something like light muscovado sugar as well. That stuff that's called like soft brown sugar. You can also use that. Anything like that will do. Gloria says we have doves in the front garden. They are very sweet. Oh, that must be beautiful. Paul says the vegan chef school 170th Facebook Live. Is that today? Wow, is it 170 today? Okay, right. Colleen is very generous. He said that Doug can take this one. Okay, right. So on to the recipe. Really simple ingredients that we've got today. I'll bring you guys to the overhead camera so that we can see them a bit better. So first of all, we've got our cashews. The cashews are really nice to use in a cookie recipe because it gives it a really nice texture. And also cashews have a natural sweetness to them as well, which I think is very handy when you're making something like a cookie or any other type of dessert. But if you don't have a high-speed blender to grind these in, you could just use ground almond. So ground almond, is something that we can get hold of in most supermarkets really. I've got 185 grams of gram flour. So gram flour has a really lovely yellow colour, which will make our cookies a really nice golden brown. You can swap out the gram flour for plain flour. Just if you are doing that, just be advised that you might need a bit more maybe water in it or something like that. But I'll show you as we go along what the texture has to be like. Okay, and then we have some baking powder, our fine brown sugar. As I said, any kind of like fine sugar will do with this recipe. We've got our coconut oil. So you can either use refined, which doesn't have the coconut flavour or the coconut smell, or you can use non-refined. I was going to say fined. Whatever the opposite of refined is. Yeah, so it just depends on whether you want that coconut flavour in there or not. This is going to have to be melted, so I'll just go and pop it into my pan of warm water to melt while I chat to you guys. And then we've got a bit of water here. So the reason why I always use coconut oil with some water is because we want the water to kind of like evaporate, and that will help make our biscuits, our cookies, quite crunchy. So we do need that combination. Okay, so let me just make sure that my coconut oil is melting. There we go. And let's start with our cashew nuts. So we're going to grind these into powder. So obviously, if you guys are using ground almond, you won't need to do this part. You won't need to do this part. Okay, I'm going to bring you guys back to the other camera so that you can actually see what I'm doing here. So we'll just pop our cashews into the tub there. There we go. This is going to get a bit noisy, guys. There we go. Make sure that's on tight. Right. Okay. And so I just give it a little shake around. So we want this to be as fine as possible. Another shake and see how it's doing, because if we just leave it on here and let it blend and blend and blend, what will happen is it will get some heat in it, and then the cashews, they have a lot of oil in them, right? And so the oil will start to come out and we'll end up with cashew butter, which isn't what we want. Okay. So our oil is melting, and I'm just going to have a little feel of this between my thumb and fingers, just to see how fine it is. We want it to be as fine as possible because we're going to be using a rolling pin to roll our cookies out, and if it has big bits in it, then we're not going to be able to roll them out very well. Just one more go. Okay, so our cashew is done now. So this is just 100 grams of cashew in here, and I'll just have another feel of it. And it feels a lot finer now, which is exactly what we want. Gloria says, love your hair. Ah, thank you. Thank you. Well, I got to that point where I was like, well, can I do a decent fringe myself at home? So I gave it a go. Okay, so our oil is melting. Being a bit noisy and a bit rattly. So now we just need to put all of our dry ingredients into our bowl. So we've got our cashew, our ground cashew. There we go. And if there are any lumps in it, I can just get them out with my fingertips. There we go. There we go. Just get any of those lumps out, just to help us. And you guys are going to have to get your hands involved in this. I know, like, so often people just want to be able to like use a spoon and stuff like that, but no, this is going to be a hands one, definitely. Okay, and then we've got 185 grams of gram flour. There we go. And what's next? Oh, our baking powder. So half a teaspoon of baking powder, and this just helps with the texture, basically. Okay, and then our 100 grams of fine brown sugar. So that is all of our dry ingredients. Can it just be popped into there? We'll give this a stir. And we are going to be kneading this as well. So if there are a few lumps, that's going to come out when we knead it anyway. Okay, so I'm just going to see if the coconut oil is melted. And it almost has. There we go. I've just got one little lump in there that I'll just try to get out. There we go. So how are you guys, by the way? I've got to ask. How are you doing? Tell me any amazing things that have been happening to you guys. Even if it's just like the really simple stuff, you know. I think it's really good for us to be thinking about all those things at the moment. Actually, Karen, who runs Veggie Vision, she asked me yesterday to tell her, she was asking everybody over the last year, what's the one great thing that has happened to you, which is great because, you know, in all of this kind of like craziness, it's really nice to think about that. And so I said to her that the best thing that had happened to me over the last year was you guys. So I'm finding my lovely community, and you know, having these amazing people who come to the show and are really supportive and kind to each other and kind to me as well. Okay, so I'll just pop the oil in there. And then the water as well. So we've got 50 millilitres of water, so that's just over 3 tablespoons of water. That can be popped in there. Doug says, I'm going to be giving a talk at VFest. Yay! Hopefully I'll meet some of you there. That's amazing. That's amazing. So if any of you guys don't know, VFest is a festival that is put on by Victoria, who owns and runs Miracles Mission, the charity that I'm involved with. So yeah, so I think all of the money that they make from VFest actually goes to Miracles Mission, which is amazing. And I know that Doug has recently done some quite epic running. Was it trail running? Oh, Justine says puppies! Exclamation mark. Is that the thing that is good that's happened to you? Yes. Any news on Bo? Okay, so Bo, unfortunately she's been a little bit unwell. But she is getting better. She is getting better, but it has delayed her transport a little bit. So we think that she's going to be coming to us in June. I think it was around like June 12th or something like that. We think that she's going to be put onto that transport then. Okay, so with this dough, as I've told you, I'm getting my hands involved and I'm really like pushing it together. See, it's becoming like pastry dough. That's what we need because we're gonna roll it out. We're gonna roll it out. So if at this point you're mixing your dough together and you're thinking, well, this is like a bit too wet or it's a bit too dry, then you're gonna have to alter the recipe slightly. So if it's a bit too dry, add a bit more water, but add it incrementally, like tiny bits, and then just see how it is. If it's too wet, then add more ground flour, but again, incrementally. Justine says, oh no, what's wrong with that? Okay, so she got a bladder infection. So she was on antibiotics, getting over that. And then she got a kind of infection from having a tick, which is, you know, unfortunately, you know, one of these things that happens with dogs. So yeah, so we're just going to have to wait a little bit longer, but we're nearly there. We're nearly there. We are like the most prepared humans that look after animals that there has ever been. There has ever been. Like, she's literally got everything that a puppy could possibly want. So yeah, we're just getting ourselves and the cats ready. We've had several chats with them. So, okay. Right, now to roll out our cookies, we need a couple of sheets of baking paper, baking parchment. These are like reusable ones, which are very handy. So we can just pop our dough on here, and I'll just press it down just to get us started, and then we can roll it out. So rolling out between 2 sheets of baking paper is always advised over flouring a surface, because if you keep flouring a surface, then what's going to happen is, you know, if you keep doing it quite a lot, it's going to change the makeup of the actual cookie dough. There we go. Okay, Right, really greasy hands. Really greasy hands. Let's move this to one side as well. So this is a type of cookie dough that really kind of like stays where it is when it's baking. You know, it doesn't spread at all, which means that it's great for making shapes. You know, if you've got like cookie cutters that have, you know, different shapes in them. I think some of you guys have seen the ones that I've got that are of bow. So I actually made up Bow's butt cookies. Yeah, you probably have to like see it to actually understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, they're dog cookies that we've made for Bow in the shape of herself, which is fairly random. But you know, when you're using a cookie cutter like that, you really need to be working with a dough that isn't going to move around. You know, it isn't going to start melting and, you know, expand or anything like that. It really needs to hold its shape. And so this is the type of dough that you need. You know, it's pretty stiff and firm, and it will really hold together. So you know, if you've got any of these like cookie cutters that have like quite a lot of detail on them, then this is the type of dough that you need. Okay, so we want to roll this dough out. You see, like I'm shifting it around as well, so I'm rolling out different areas as well, so it's all nice and even. And we want it to be around like 3 mil, something like that. Justine says, "Oh, bless her. How old is she? At least you won't get the teething, biting phase." So they think that Bo is about 3. But as I'm sure a lot of you know, when animals are from shelters, it's kind of like a guesstimation, really. So, okay, let's see how this is doing. There we go. And one thing that I do, and I'll try and do this carefully, like flip it over as well and just remove that other sheet. And that's just going to make it easier for us when we take the shapes off here. Oh, Colleen says, what temperature for the oven? Okay, sorry, I should have said that earlier. 180 degrees Celsius, which is 360 degrees Fahrenheit, gas mark 4. There we go. Okay. Paul says, you might think I'm good at counting up to 170 shows, but my USA Facebook friend Joy Ball, who has been watching the 403 daily consecutive gyration shows since mid-March last year, is absolutely great with their Facebook Live statistics. Oh, wow. Wow, they've done 403 daily consecutive. Wow. Okay. Stiff competition there. Okay, so now we're just going to make our cookie shapes. There we go. And you'll want a baking tray ready with some baking paper. There we go. So I think that this recipe makes something like maybe 12 Jammie dodgers, because I think they've got 2 layers on each one. And with the raspberries that I use for the inside, I specify to use frozen raspberries and defrost them. And the reason why I say that is because we want them to be quite juicy. And often with frozen raspberries, once they defrost, they get really juicy. They let out a lot of liquid, and that's what the chia seeds need to soak up. So you know, I have my frozen raspberries in here, and then they're just defrosting whilst I'm actually doing all of this. Okay, so now we've got some of our cookie shapes here. I'll bring over the baking tray. There we go. So nice wide baking tray, because there's quite a few of these, and in fact I actually ended up doing two trays. So you do need quite a lot of space for these. So I'm just going to pop the cookies onto here. I'm not going to cut the middles out just yet. Wait for that, because if you cut the middle out here and then you try and move it over, your cookie will go a bit wonky, and it will be kind of like misshapen, and then once it's baked, it will bake into that shape. So we don't want to do that. So we're going to move them all over to the baking tray first. But guys, you know, if you don't have, you know, a heart shape cookie cutter or star or anything like that, then you could just use just a smaller round one. So even just something like a shot glass would work. So because it's so pliable, put it all together and then kind of pile it all on top of each other and use the rolling pin, and then we'll be able to cut out more shapes. Okay, so we've got some shapes here, and here I'll show you what I mean essentially. Taste.